the channel. I'm back to break down this 15-game MLB DFS slate on DraftKings and FanDuel. Before we get into the breakdown, if you do enjoy the content at any point in this video, if you could please leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so that way you don't miss any future content that I upload. That would be greatly appreciated. Got a big slate to go ahead and break down today. Lots of options, so we're going to be able to be picky with our pitching, our bats, all the above. Going to have plenty of opportunities, plenty of options to pick from, so excited to get into the breakdown. Don't forget to stay tuned to the end of the video for my home run call of the day last night. Hopefully you played Miguel Cabrera. Was big on him. Said his power numbers are down with his older age, but I think this is a great spot. Went up there and hit 2 bombs, so that was great. If you like home runs, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and with that being said, lastly, if you are interested in some further content from me, I do offer a premium package that's linked below in the description. You get access to all the same tools that I use when building my own DFS lineups. My starting pitcher data sheet, how hitter, stack ass data, splits leaderboard, team hitting data, bullpen data, my power rankings, and my cheat sheet. And with that being said, let's go ahead and start breaking down this slate today. Don't forget to stay tuned to the end of the video. Home run call of the day. Let's get into it. As always, I like to go ahead and sort my sheet by K rate. It's fantasy sports. We get points for strikeouts, and the top guy on the slate today in K rate is going to be Corbin Burnes, taking on the Atlanta Braves. Comes with a 36.6% K overall, a 16% swinging strike rate, 38.9% K rate against righties, and a 34.4% K rate against lefties. Really, really good across the board. And while Atlanta isn't the greatest matchup in the world while you're dealing with a guy like this, it doesn't really matter because, I mean, the guy can go out there and strike out anyone, really. So Corbin Burnes, elite stuff, 11-2 on FanDuel over on DraftKings. They have him priced at 10-2. He's definitely one of the top options on the slate, if not the top option, and definitely going to have a lot of interest in Mr. Corbin Burnes today. Touki DeSaint taking on the Milwaukee Brewers, comes in second on the slate in K rate at 29.4% K overall, 14.2 swinging strike rate, 33.3% K rate against righties, and a 22.2% K rate against lefties. Only dealing with a 13 innings pitch sample size, but it has been really, really good. And he's taking on a team today in the Milwaukee Brewers who really don't scare us. You're looking at his 2 performance, you can see 10 Ks and 5 Ks. First few times out, and he's priced all the way down to 6.9 on DraftKings. Over on FanDuel, they have him priced at 8.5. So on DraftKings specifically, a very friendly price tag on Touki DeSaint today. He's going to make a lot of sense to me. As far as FanDuel, 8.5, I'm not quite sure. I mean, FanDuel's pricing on bats and stuff tends to be a little bit more lenient. So that could open up some room to put in Touki, because I definitely do think this is a great opportunity for him to go out there and have a bunch of strikeouts. And, you know, so far he's looked really, really good. Only downside is it's Atlanta, and it's not the best hitting ballpark, and it's 91 degrees with 10-mile-an-hour winds blowing out. So, I mean, that's really bad weather for, you know, as far as targeting pitchers, but still got to have interest. Kevin Gausman taking on the Houston Astros, been really good all season long, but the problem is the Houston Astros have a very good lineup, and they don't really strike out a lot. I mean, the guy has a 29% K rate across the board against both handedness of hitters, a 216 slugging given up to righties, and a 370 slugging given up to lefties. So, you know, that's got to pique your interest somewhat. But as mentioned, you know, the matchup's pretty much the worst you could ask for as far as strikeout rate's concerned. The Astros and the Padres have been the 2 teams that we really have not wanted to target from a strikeout aspect. And then when pulling up the Vegas lines here, you can see the Astros do only have a 3.68 implied run total. It's in San Francisco, so great pitching environment for Gausman. He does have a few things going on for him. It's just, you know, less than ideal when it comes to strikeout rate, but the fact that the Astros have a 3.68 implied run total, I think, does say something about his talent. And if you want to go there tonight, I wouldn't call you crazy. Logan Gilbert taking on Texas, another very strikeout-heavy matchup, which we love to see. A 28.8% K overall for the kid, a 12.8 swinging strike rate, 30.3% K rate against righties, and a 27.2% K rate against lefties. Has really cranked it up here over the last few starts as far as his K rate is concerned, which is what was expected from him when he came up. Supposed to be, you know, a really hard-hurling, effective guy when he's on the bump. And as far as his price tag is concerned, comes in at 7.2 on DraftKings. Looking at his last few games, 5 Ks, 9 Ks, 8 Ks over the last 3 earned run, 2 earned run, and 0 earned run. So I do think he's really having it all kind of come together. He had 6 Ks against Texas his first time, 2 earned runs over 5.2 innings pitched. Has been right up there around 100 pitches when he's been effective on the mound, and I do think that he's a great option to be looking to today. As far as his price tag over on FanDuel, he comes in at 8.8. So once again, guys, priced up a little bit more on FanDuel, but in a great spot, taking on the Texas Rangers. Got to like that spot. Sonny Gray taking on the New York Mets, a guy that we could definitely be targeting. A 28.8% K overall, 25.5% K rate against righties, and a 32.4% K rate against lefties. He does actually strike out left-handed bats a lot more effectively, all the way up to 32%, which is going to come in handy because when you're looking at this New York Mets lineup up and down, they do have quite a few lefties. Brandon Nimmo, Jeff McNeil, Dominic Smith, Michael Conforto, Jonathan Villar, Luis Guillermo. You know, that's really good that he's more effective against those lefties because, you know, that's a big part of this matchup tonight. So Sonny Gray making a lot of sense as far as price tag on DraftKings 9-2. Has been working his way back up to a better pitch count. I mean, last time out, he got blown up for 8 earned runs, the time before 5 earned runs, so that's a little bit less than ideal, of course. But do I think that he can bounce back? Absolutely. I think that Sonny Gray is a good enough pitcher to where we don't need to really rely on those numbers too heavily here. We do have Patrick Sandoval taking on the Oakland Athletics at 27.9% K overall, 16.3 swing strike rate. That tops the slate. Very good stuff as far as swing strike rate is concerned. A 27.1% K rate against righties and a 30% K rate against lefties. Has looked very effective out there on the mound, and he's taking on a Oakland Athletics team tonight that I don't really love targeting with left-handed pitching all the time because they are very effective, but they do strike out a lot. Patrick Sandoval gets a big bump up going to Oakland as far as a pitching ballpark, and he does have some really effective stuff as far as swinging strike rate and all that stuff. Putting it solid, taking on Arizona. They're a team we really like to target because they're really not that good. He has a 30.5% K overall against righties, a 26.1% K against lefties. Early in the season, his workload was an issue, and if you look at his most recent performances as far as his pitch count, he's still not really getting all that up there. He's limited to right around 80 pitches, so it's probably a no for me on such a huge slate. And we can go to a guy like Lance Lynn taking on Cleveland Indians, who've been striking out a ton lately, a 27.4% K overall, 32.8% K rate against righties, and a 23% K rate against lefties. Unfortunately, his K rate dips down a bunch against left-handed hitting, but the thing is, as mentioned, the Cleveland Indians have been striking out a bunch lately, like definitely a lineup you want to be targeting as far as strikeout rate's concerned. And they only have a 3.44 implied run total. Lance Lynn priced at 10.7 on FanDuel. Over on DraftKings, they have him priced at 10.3. Top price guy on the slate, and I think it makes sense when you factor in his stuff in the matchup. You know, whether or not we really need to go up to him as the top guy, I don't know, but it makes a lot of sense. I mean, it's kind of hard to not have interest in this spot. So, moving further along as far as guys we're looking to, I mean, this slate's absolutely loaded. I don't want to be rambling and listing every single guy that we could possibly play because it's a lot. But I do want to hit on the guys that I would say are your top targets. Zach Allen taking on the Dodgers, probably a pass for me. Zach Thompson taking on the New York Yankees as far as looking at his stuff and what he's been able to do lately. Pitch counts have been an issue as well, only around 80 pitches. I mean, I think he could go out there and put on a great performance in this game, but I'm not willing to play a guy that's somewhat limited in pitch count on such a huge slate. Tariq Skubal taking on Baltimore, I think it'd be an interesting option. We've seen him really take some steps since earlier in the season, being a gas can, a 26.3% K overall, 26.1% K rate against righties, and a 27.2% K rate against lefties. Does give up a lot of power to right-handed hitting. However, the strikeouts have been there, and he's taking on a Baltimore Orioles squad that we're not all too scared of. The Baltimore Orioles only have a 4.34 implied run total. He's 8.2 on FanDuel. Over on DraftKings, they have him priced at, let's see here, 7.5. And you're looking at his game logs, you can see 4Ks, 4Ks, 5Ks, 6Ks. Honestly, last few times out, he really hasn't been striking that many hitters out compared to what he was at. I mean, he had a few games where he had like 9, 7, 8Ks. So, but with that being said, this could be the matchup where he finally gets back up to that K mark. And I think it makes a lot of sense. He's been somewhat limited around like 90 pitches or so, which is a little bit. Once again, I'm really looking for a workhorse guy. Like, that's one thing that Lance Lynn has on these guys. We talked about his being priced up. Like, if you look at his pitch counts when he goes out there, we're talking 98, 89, 102, 117. They're willing to really push him past the 100 mark. So that's the kind of pitcher I want on a slate this huge. I want a workhorse guy if at all possible. So, you know, that's one thing to keep an eye on. We have Jose Berrios taking on the St. Louis Cardinals. Honestly, I'm not all too interested in him. I'd rather play a guy like Chris Bassett taking on the Los Angeles Angels. I think that Berrios is viable, but he's also on the trade market right now, so just keep an eye on that one. But Chris Bassett taking on the Los Angeles Angels, 24.9% K rate overall, 24.5% K rate against righties, and 25.3% K rate against lefties. In another lineup that has been dealing with a lot of strikeouts, especially lower in the order. They've been a lineup that we've been willing to target. He's a 121 favorite. It's in Oakland, another great pitching ballpark. So, of course, you know, the better the pitching ballpark, the more interested I'm going to have. And then we have Jameson Taillon taking on Miami, Vince Velasquez taking on Pittsburgh. They're both spots that we can definitely target as far as the matchup's concerned. I'm not too scared about these guys' opponents. Pittsburgh, it's in Pittsburgh, great pitching ballpark for Vince Velasquez. He's only 6.3 on FanDuel. Over on DraftKings, they have him priced at 7.7. So finally a price tag that's better on FanDuel than DraftKings. And this is a guy that has a lot of strikeout upside. He just gives up a lot of hard contact in Pittsburgh against this lineup that's not very loaded with power, and in a ballpark that they're, some of his mistakes may be able to be forgiven based on the dynamics and all that. I definitely think that he can make a lot of sense. It's a punt play in this one. Ross Stripling taking on Kansas City Royals to be an interesting option. He's a 2.11 favorite. I'm not getting too intrigued. I mentioned Jameson Taillon. It's in Miami. That's going to be a great pitching environment for him. Not the best numbers in the world. A 23.1% K overall, 22.6% K rate against righties, and a 23.7% K rate against lefties. Honestly, really nothing that's going to make you all excited. It's really just a ballpark and opponent thing. And once we get down past him, I don't really think anyone else is all that necessary to be going to, honestly, overall on this slate today. The rest of them, I'm really looking to target them with bats. We have Cody Allard taking on the Seattle Mariners. They're a team that we always look to target. He has been pretty good in the ground ball, fly ball stuff for the most part. Has a little bit of the slugging. He does have a 19.9% K rate against righties and a 28.4% K rate against lefties. So he just really doesn't strike out that many right-handed hitters. So you need to target him against teams that are very left-handed heavy. There's a few lefties in the Seattle lineup, but not too interested. So that is my overall breakdown as far as pitching. Let's transition over to bats. As always, I like to go ahead and sort my sheet by Sierra, scale interactive ERA. It's a good way of determining how good a pitcher's been so far in the season and how good they're expected to be in the future. And the worst on the slate today is going to be John Lester taking on the Chicago Cubs. Ground ball, fly ball stuff has been terrible. The hard contact stuff hasn't been the worst, but he's still giving up a 552 slugging to righty, so we really want to target him with right-handed power. And when we're looking at the Chicago Cubs lineup tonight, as far as the hitting environment and all that fun stuff, it's 84 degrees in Washington. Looks like there's 11-mile-an-hour winds blowing in from left field, which is a little less than ideal, of course, because we're going to be targeting these power hitters that hit from the right-handed side, the ball wanting to carry out to left field. So, that might limit my interest here a little bit, but Wilson Contreras, Chris Bryant, Javi Baez, Matt Duffy, Patrick Wisdom, David Bodie, Jake Mrzik. This lineup actually is very well designed to hit left-handed pitching at this point. And I would really, really like it if it wasn't for that wind. I still really do like it. From a matchup aspect, it's just the weather. That's pretty significant wind blowing in. So, can they still hit bombs out? Yes. Does he still go with a bunch of slugging? Yes, they can definitely hit it out. But I think you get my gist. Over 10-mile-an-hour winds blowing in directly from the pull side of the hitters you're trying to target is less than ideal. So, Wade LeBlanc taking on the Minnesota Twins comes in. Ground ball, fly ball stuff's terrible. Hard contact stuff's terrible. A 5.11 slugging given up to righties. A 500 slugging given up to lefties. Has not been good in any facet of the game, really, outside of walk rate, which we'll gladly take because we don't want our hitters getting walked. We want them hitting home runs, doubles, singles, etc. And Minnesota comes in with a 4.39 implied run total. Honestly, it's not a good hitting environment in St. Louis is the only thing pulling up the diagram that I always like to show you guys as far as St. Louis. A lot of red and yellow going on, honestly, so less than ideal. But the Minnesota Twins lineup has been dangerous against left-handed pitching all season long. Looks like there's 8-mile-an-hour winds blowing in from center, 82 degrees. I don't think they're going to get the ownership that they deserve. And for that reason, they make for a great lone stack. Jorge Polanco, Brent Rooker, Josh Donaldson, Mitch Garver, Miguel Sano, Gilberto Celestino, Anderson Simmons. Honestly, I think the fact that Nelson Cruz isn't in this lineup anymore is going to naturally reduce their ownership anytime they're taking on a lefty and they're in a good matchup. So, but I don't think that's a bad thing all the time. So Minnesota is going to be a pretty good option. Matt Harvey taking on the Detroit Tigers. He's been terrible across the board. Ground ball, fly ball stuff's terrible. A 514 slugging given up to righties. A 426 slugging given up to lefties. Just really not scaring us at all. Detroit went out there and put up some good numbers as far as, Miggy last night. Some guys I had some interest in, and I'd expect some more of the same tonight. They have a 5.16 implied run total, 72 degrees with 6-mile-an-hour winds blowing out. These Detroit Tigers are definitely going to be a viable stack. Akil Baddoo at the top of the order, going to have a bunch of interest in. Jonathan Scope, Robbie Grossman's been a great hitter all year. Miguel Cabrera, Heimer Candelario, Eric Costa, Harold Castro, Willie Castro. Definitely throughout the 6th spot, I'm definitely going to have interest in. 7, 8, 9, you can definitely fill in to round out your stacks. Just a little less interest in those guys, but like the Detroit stack. Daniel Lynch taking on the Toronto Blue Jays. Hard contact stuff has been a real issue for him. He's given up a 542 slugging to righties, a 429 slugging to lefties. Ground ball, fly ball stuff hasn't been the worst against righties, but when you get up a 542 slugging, that's still a spot that you're definitely going to want to target. And then, not to mention, let's be honest, the Toronto Blue Jays have an absolutely loaded lineup. There's 12-mile-an-hour winds blowing out to left center, and that could be a problem for Daniel Lynch, a left-handed hurler. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. in that 2 spot, of course, a guy that's been raking all year long. George Springer, Marcus Semien, Bo Bichette, Teoscar Hernandez, Randall Grichuk. Um, it just seems like you got to stack these Toronto Blue Jays up every single time they take the field. If I had to bet the team I've stacked it the most on the season, I think it would be the Blue Jays by far. So keep an eye on their ownership. But if they're not getting the recognition they deserve because maybe their price tags are more expensive than the other teams, maybe going to some Blue Jay stacks with a cheaper pitcher could be contrarian in tournaments. Vince Velasquez taking on the Pittsburgh Pirates. Ground ball, fly ball stuff isn't good. We already talked about that. 475 slugging up to righties, a 43 slugging up to lefties. I just don't think this Pittsburgh Pirates lineup is pretty good enough to get the job done. They have a 4.27 applied run total. The hitting environment's terrible. The lineup's terrible. It's probably a no for me. Would it surprise me if they absolutely blew up in their lone stack that wins tournaments? No, but I just think the likelihood isn't very likely, and I'm not willing to go there most likely until I dig into the pitch data if I see something that really stands out the page, but probably not. Will Crowe taking on Philadelphia, another guy that's been terrible. A 596 slugging game with the righties, a 420 slugging game with the lefties. He can't get the job done in any facet, really. The strikeout rate against lefties is his best rate on the season, and he gives up a 14.3% walk rate to those lefties. So, going to walk guys, going to have guys on base, lots of traffic, lots of hard hits given up. The only problem is it's in Pittsburgh, as mentioned, but I think the Philadelphia stack is still going to be a great one today. Gene Segura, JT Realmuto, Bryce Harper, Andrew McCutchen, Brad Miller, Didi Gregorius, Alec Boehm. This lineup has been hot lately, so I might be willing to, allow for the bad ballpark to just be one negative in this matchup because that's probably the only negative. So definitely going to have interest in them. Ryan Weathers taking on the Colorado Rockies. He has been terrible. Ground ball, fly ball stuff's bad against righties specifically. He's a left-handed hurler, a 427 slugging it up to righties, a 42.2% hard contact rate. That's really, really bad with a 17.7% strikeout rate. So the Colorado Rockies are going to make a lot of sense today. The only problem is it's in San Diego. We really don't like targeting the Rockies on the road quite as much. But, I mean, Trevor Story in the 3 spot's going to be an absolute elite bat on the slate today. Brendan Rodgers is going to be a great option. Elias Diaz, great option. Connor Joe, Gary Hampton at the bottom of the order. Unfortunately, this lineup just kind of stinks, but Trevor Story specifically, Brendan Rodgers in the 2 spot, those two guys are going to be great options taking on Ryan Weathers. I think that they could have a lot of potential for a high score for you tonight. Tony Gonsolin taking on Arizona. Ground ball, fly ball stuff has been terrible. The walk rate's been terrible. He doesn't give up the most hard contact, but when he does, it's really against right-handed hitting. Arizona's just really not a good lineup overall, and the guy's strikeout's been pretty good, and they only have a 3.79 applied run total, so that's probably going to be a no from me. In this one, Martin Perez, you can definitely target with right-handed power. Problem is the Tampa Bay Rays have really not been good against left-handed pitching all season long. He gives up a 454 slugging to righties, a 351 wOBA to righties, only a 19.5% hard contact, strikeout rate. So the Tampa Bay Rays righties are going to be interesting today for sure. One problem is it's in the Trop in Tampa Bay, not really a good hitting environment. So that seems to be a theme here. And, you're going to have to pick one of these teams to stack up. I think the Rays could be that team. Manuel Margot, Wander Franco, Nelson Cruz in the 3 spot. Obviously, a great bat. As I discussed him earlier. Yandy Diaz, Randy Rosarina has a bunch of power. Mike Zunino, I love playing against lefties. So the Rays stack, definitely a viable one. And then as we continue along here, we mentioned maybe playing Jameson Taillon. I mean, the guy's numbers have been really bad from a hard contact aspect. A 431 slugging to the righties, a 455 slugging to the lefties. And against the lefties specifically, he's been really, really bad. So Miami, not really the best ballpark, not really the best lineup, but I think they could be maybe a lone stack you could be looking to. I mean, Taillon's numbers really have not been good. I'd love to say I have a lot of confidence in playing him. I don't really have a lot of confidence in stacking or playing him, so it might be a fade spot, but just something to look into. Zach Gallen taking on Los Angeles Dodgers, an absolute loaded lineup. He has had his issues this year. A 364 slugging in with the righties, a 430 slugging with the lefties. Really against the lefties is where he's been struggling the most. That 32.5% K rate against righties is a little bit scary to be targeting, but I think the Dodgers lefties are going to make a lot of sense. It's in Arizona. It's a field I love targeting with left-handed power. Pulling up the diagram as far as Arizona's ballpark, you can see he plays very friendly down the right field line to left-handed batters. So I always like targeting lefties here. Corey Seager, if he's back in the lineup, going to be a great play. Max Muncy, Cody Bellinger, Billy McKinney, love stacking up those lefties against Gallen today. And then, of course, you can put in the righties around your stacks. Guys like Will Smith, he's much better against right-handed pitching as is. So in the middle of the order, going to like him. And the Dodgers stack, definitely going to be a good one. Trevor Williams, another guy that really struggles against left-handed hitting. So against Washington, a lineup that you can definitely target the lefties in. A 500 slugging in with the lefties, 374 wOBA, just not going to get the job done. He does give up quite a bit of slugging to righties as well with a 467 slugging. And looking at the Washington lineup, of course, Juan Soto, Josh Bell, those two guys are going to be absolute great plays. Luis Garcia, Gerardo Parra, and Justin Stevenson also round out their lineup now with no Trey Turner. So a lot left-handed heavier than it was before, which could be a great sign for this matchup. So that could be an interesting stack today for sure. J.C. Mejia's the same way. He's even worse against left-handed hitting against the Chicago White Sox. 643 slugging, giving up 40% hard contact rate at 429 WOBA. Those are very, very bad numbers. So the Chicago White Sox lefties are going to make a lot of sense to me today. Looking at their lineup, Cesar Hernandez, the new acquisition, going to be a great play. They got Gavin Sheets with a bunch of power, Brian Goodwin with a bunch of power, Zach Collins at the bottom of the order as a contrarian play, and Yon Moncada in the 3 spot. So you got to like those lefties. The righties, I don't have nearly as much interest in. He's been very good against righties, so not really looking to go there. We had mentioned the Blue Jays, but also Ross Stripling, really not that good. He's taking on the Kansas City Royals today, specifically against right-handed hitting. He's reverse splitsy guy at 528 slugging, giving up 359 WOBA, 36.7% ground ball rate. And the Kansas City Royals are a pretty right-handed heavy lineup. I don't think they're going to get any ownership. 12 minor wins blowing out. I think it could be a sneaky and fun spot to be targeting. Whit Merrifield, Salvador Perez, Jorge Soler, Hunter Dozier, Michael Taylor, and then, of course, the lefties, Carlos Santana, Andrew Benintendi, and Ryan O'Hearn. You can throw in your lineups. It's not like Stripling's all that great against lefties either. He's definitely a little bit better than he is against righties, but, you know, I think I like the Royals stack a lot more than maybe some other people may on this slate today, so that's an interesting one for you to target, and I think the Toronto Blue Jays bullpen's pretty bad as well. We mentioned Tariq Skubal's hard contact issues against right-handed hitting, taking on the Baltimore Orioles today. You could definitely be stacking them up. I do tend to think I lean towards Skubal over the Orioles stack, but if the Orioles stack can get to him early, they do with the bullpen. I don't know. This lineup is designed pretty well to face up against left-handed pitching. So, I mean, Austin Hayes mashes lefties. Trey Mancini mashes lefties. Ryan Mountcastle, a bunch of power. Ramon Urias, Pedro Severino, a bunch of power against lefties. Maikel Franco, a bunch of power against lefties. Even Patrick Felique at the bottom of the order can hit lefties pretty effectively here and there. So, I don't hate the Baltimore Orioles stack. I don't hate it at all. Of course, you're going to have to pick which side of the fence you're on there. Maybe play some Skubal lineups and some Orioles stacks, but I'm not getting too excited there. And then as far as some sneaky targets that we could be looking to, Jose Barrios is a guy that has been struggling a lot against left-handed hitting this year. So any Cardinals lefties in the lineup could be some sneakier some sneakier plays. Guys like Dylan Carlson at the top of the order, Tommy Edman at the bottom of the order. It's really only Dylan Carlson. This lineup's so right-handed heavy, it's ridiculous, but I think Carlson could be a sneakier play than some may think. And then Sonny Gray, a guy that I had mentioned maybe could bounce back, has been a guy that's really been struggling against right-handed power, so I think a guy like P. Alonso could make a lot of sense as a sneakier play that some people may not be on because they see Sonny Gray's name and they don't really want to target him, but he's in a great spot tonight. So with that being said, that's my overall breakdown of the slate today. Before I let you guys go, I got to give you my home run call of the day. Let's get into it. And my home run call of the day today is going to be Gavin Sheets taking on J.C. Mejia. We had mentioned his hard contact issues against lefties. He's been absolutely dreadful. Only strikes them out 17.4% of the time. Gives up a 429 WOBA, a 643 slugging with a 40% hard contact rate and a 45.6% ground ball rate. Not going to get the job done. Gavin Sheets, a guy that's been absolutely raking ever since he got the call up to the bigs. And this is going to be a great spot for him as far as how he profiles against pitches as well. Mejia very reliant on the sinker changeup combination, throws that sinker about 44% of the time, and Sheets absolutely mashes that pitch. A 857 ISO with a 583 WOBA, and as far as the secondary pitch and the changeup, Sheets crushes as well. A 429 ISO with a 443 WOBA. Love this spot for Gavin Sheets. The right field line plays great in Chicago. Two left-handed hitters as far as home runs are concerned. Get him in your lineups because he is my home run call of the day. There you have it, guys. Gavin Sheets, get him in your lineups, and that is all from me in this one. If you did enjoy the content, if you could please leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell. That would be greatly appreciated. Wish you guys all the best of luck tonight, and we will see you in the next one.